As a show, we are pro slot merchants.
We love the slot merchants.
The slot merchants drink for free.
Love a good slot merchant.
Yes, absolutely. By the way, that sounds like a bad Spin Doctors cover band.
Yes.
The slot merchants.
The slot merchants.
Yeah,
Right.
They're like a local band at your local, hey, 2 for 1, it's flip night on Wednesday, and the slot merchants are on at 9.
They only play two Princes just over and over and over again. Yeah, that makes sense.
They feel like a bar band, like a
Yes.
college bar band, the slot merchants.
Yeah. Bad at music, good at PPR.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Happy Tracksuit Friday. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. Connor Rogers, Matthew Berry, Jay Croucher.
Yeah.
Is that a tracksuit?
Yeah, Friday night, it's Dollar Wing Night, and at 9 o'clock, Matthew Berry and the Slot Merchants hit the stage right here at the
You on
Happy
the
Hour
vocals?
bar. Why not?
Let it rip.
Yeah, of course, I'll get up there.
I like it. We'll
Yeah,
see how
I
that
can't-
goes.
I
Not on
can't
this show.
sing at all.
No,
I
you
can't
can't.
sing at all.
But do you believe you could sing after 2 margaritas?
I believe I can do anything
There we
after
go.
a couple of margaritas.
We're
I can
good.
believe, but I'm just being clear. I can't actually sing, but
You're not a man to say no.
I'm not a man to say
You're a man
no.
to try new things.
I love to
especially
try
with
new
some
things.
liquid courage.
No question.
We're
about
still
it.
looking for the
That's
slot
how our
merchants, by the
magical
way.
night in Buffalo happened.
absolutely.
Yeah, I
Try
was
new
very
things.
drunk, and then
Oh,
and
Lord.
Jay said, "Hey, I got an idea," and next thing you know, it's lore. It's
Instantly
show
thrown
lore.
under the bus on that. That
Yeah.
was your idea.
Yes, the slot merchants.
Okay. We'll see if
Tell
this,
me,
we get
I'm
the
just,
band.
I continue to look. I want a band, like somebody tweet the show or tweet me
Yeah.
or.
You don't have to be good, by the way. Let's make that clear.
No.
You
I
just
it's
have to
better
try.
it's much better if you're bad.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I want the show band. I want the show band to be named the Slot Merchant. And if you
perfect.
live in the greater Stamford, Connecticut area, even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Merchant is
somebody.
underused. It's
Severely.
hugely underused. You
Yes.
just add merchant onto the back
Yeah.
of something. It
It's
makes
so
it funnier.
disrespectful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
you're a
calling you
gambling
once your
merchant.
pony.
Yeah, gambling merchant. You're a tracksuit merchant.
Yeah, tracksuit
Yeah.
merchant.
Use face stuff with tracksuits, nothing else.
So does
Yeah, so do
Connor.
I. That's all I got.
Yeah, 100%.
You got to roll with what
Connor's
you
a
got.
hair elevation merchant.
That's fair. You got to hold on for dear life.
I'm a lack of hair merchant.
We got a fun show today, and I promise it will get fun after we recap Thursday Night Football with the Broncos
Speaking
and
of
the
liquid
Saints.
courage. Yeah.
You needed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, exactly.
Bad football
Bo Nix.
merchants.
But
Spencer Rattler.
yeah, exactly.
Jake Haener ruining things.
The Saints and Broncos are bad football merchants.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
exactly
Well,
what
to be
they
fair,
are.
the Broncos' defense is, I think,
That's right.
legitimately good.
They're half bad merchants.
Everything else in the game was bad.
Yeah.
We got Denny Carter joining us, as he always does on Friday, to let us know what the mainstream media won't tell us. So let's jump right into a little Thursday Night Football here, guys. And
Yeah.
We're going to end the show with pickup lines, as we do. Another one of Jay's ideas, I think, once upon a time.
Yep.
So, all right.
Ideas merchant.
Let's get into the Roto World player news. For all your player news, go to NBCSports.com. A Thursday Night Football matchup that was headlined by Javonte Williams, 14 carries, 88 yards. Most importantly, Matthew, he gets the 2 touchdowns. We discussed that this game didn't have a ton of fantasy-relevant players, but Javonte Williams had a big night.
He certainly did. I mean, 17 total touches here, over 100 total yards from scrimmage. Second best fantasy game of his career, right? And his third game this season with multiple go-to-go rushing attempts. I think that's important here. He had 4 different red zone rushing attempts in this game. That's a season high. He's also averaging 4.2 targets per game, which is 4th most among running backs. I think the thought at the beginning of the season was, well, he's going to be the between the tackles guy. Julian McLaughlin will be in the passing game, but no, they're just using Javonte Williams now on all 3 downs. Audric Estime, your guy, comes back, bad fumble,
Not
gets
the
an
best.
opportunity. So my point is that even though we all like Audric Estime, I think
He's third on the depth chart.
he's
for a
third on the
reason.
depth chart,
Yeah.
and it's going to be a while before he earns some playing time back, especially because, give credit where credit's due, Jay, Javonte Williams looked pretty good in a game in which not much else did.
He did. He looked explosive. He looked powerful. What I don't know how to put in context is I can't remember a team that was worse at tackling than these Saints.
It's
It's
really
an
rough.
absolute mess. Like what happened on the Godwin
Right.
touchdown last week. They couldn't tackle the Chiefs. I just don't understand. This is a veteran team that had an awesome defense last year. Everyone just got old at the same time, and they're missing some bodies at the moment. But that is the difficult thing where they could have tackled Javonte Williams a lot earlier on some of these plays, and they didn't. But I think the main thing with Javonte and what is projectable going forward is just the usage. He had effectively 3 times as many carries as anyone else on the team at the running back position.
I think Sean Payton just trying to find some kind of rhythm in this offense here. I wonder, though, is he a sell high? So next week they're home to Carolina. You love that matchup. They've got 10 days now to prepare for a home game against the Panthers. But after that, at Baltimore, at Kansas City, home to Atlanta. You don't love any of those matches. And so I wonder if you sit here and you say, we just said this was the second best game of his career. Like, how much more do you think you're going to get out of Javonte Williams here? Again, we don't have a ton of confidence in this offense. You see the upcoming schedule here. So after that Falcons game I mentioned, at Raiders, okay, that's a good matchup. But then home to the Browns. That's on Monday Night Football. Sorry, ESPN. And then you got a bye week. Colts is a good matchup, but the fantasy playoffs at the Chargers, at the Bengals, home to the Chiefs, that's not great either. So I don't know, like kind of feels like a worse lineup the rest of the way. There's a couple of good matchups in there, but for the most part, bunch of games where you're not feeling super confident about Javonte Williams. So I wouldn't just sell him for anything, but like off of this game, if you get a decent offer, I might think about it because, again, traditionally Sean Payton has liked to use multiple running backs. He hasn't recently because Javonte Williams has been the one good guy he's got there, and they're trying to find their way on offense, but I don't fully trust it from a Payton perspective or the matchup.
Well, at what point do teams make Bo Nix throw the ball, right?
Right.
Do you just sell out to – if Javonte Williams is your calling card of your offense, okay, we're going to load the box and make Bo Nix throw, which he's literally not doing, Jay.
But Bo Nix was atrocious.
Well.
He was atrocious last night. It was one of the worst quarterback performances you'll ever see for someone who had like the relative respectability of his stat line, and he had the rushing, and they won the game by 23 points, etc. But I just he seems that his mechanics are just broken, Connor. He is doing something that you just don't see from many quarterbacks, where he's drifting back out of the pocket before the pressure is remotely close. It just seems like his footwork is way off. The comical miss between the two receivers, where he overthrew and underthrew one at the same time.
It's hard
the
to do.
pick to Tyrann Mathieu that we were talking about, where it was so bad that Tyrann Mathieu didn't even realize what was happening. Like, it was just a mess across the board. Now, he has the rushing, and that's always going to raise his floor from a fantasy perspective. And to be fair, from an NFL perspective as well, it's very useful that he can do this on the ground. But through the air, it's just it's a mess.
And somehow Matthew ends up with 14 fantasy points. It's amazing.
It's absolutely ridiculous. His 75 rushing yards. I mean, by the way, his rushing prop on DraftKings last night, I think I got it at 25.5. So he blows past that and triple. And while it's so fascinating because Bo Nix is not, quote, good at football so far, he has just not been great. But he's putting up fantasy points because of the rushing. He's now had back-to-back games with at least 60 rushing yards. He's averaging 36 rushing yards per game on the season. And since week 3, guys, he's the 14th best quarterback in fantasy on a points per game basis. He's had at least 19 fantasy points in 3 of the 5 games over that stretch. To give you a comparison, since week 3, here's some of the fantasy quarterbacks. I'm just going to show it to you right here, right? Okay, so that first one right there, these are 3 quarterbacks since week 3 on a points per game basis because they all haven't played the same number of games. So number 14, the first one, they're averaging 16.8. That's Bo Nix, okay? Any guesses as to who the next 2 guys are?
Do you have any numbers for what they've done? Like
16.6 and 16.4. You see it right there on your screen.
Yeah. I wasn't actually listening on the pre-call when we went through who these names actually are. So is one of them Patrick Mahomes?
One of them is not Patrick Mahomes.
I have them, so I won't answer.
One of them is not Patrick Mahomes. I will tell you, I will reveal to you right now that averaging more fantasy points per game since week 3, Bo Nix is averaging more fantasy points per game since week 3 than Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts. Just to give you on the other side of this, C.J. Stroud is averaging 16.9. Geno's averaging 17 points per game. And there's Bo Nix at 16.8. I got a question for you. Again, and I will say this. I don't think he's good at football, but I will say 2 things that I do think he is good at. I do think this rushing is sustainable, and I think he keeps this job. I mean,
for sure.
They're not going to anyone else. Sorry, Zach Wilson. They're not going to anyone else.
Active.
Right, exactly. That's my point. Like, it's Bo Nix's job. So I asked to you, my fine gentleman here. He's not throwing touchdowns, but he is running and he's going to keep the job. Rest of the season, who would you rather have, Bo Nix or Trevor Lawrence?
Trevor Lawrence, reluctantly, but it's very close.
Fantasy-wise, purely from a fantasy perspective.
Yes.
I'd still go with Trevor Lawrence. I'm worried about the Bo Nix, like week 1 Bo Nix coming back, where it's can we get to the 50-yard line?
Okay, fine. Fantasy-wise, Bo Nix or Daniel Jones?
I might take Bo.
I would take Bo Nix because
coming back could help.
I don't think Daniel Jones is finishing the season because of the injury guarantee stuff.
Rest of the season, Bo Nix or Justin Herbert?
I would take her. I think Herbert's time is coming now.
Yeah, I think Herbert as well.
Fine. Bo Nix or Drake May?
Here's why I'll say May, not to just always take the other guy. New England's going to be getting blown out at times. Denver's defense is so good. Yeah. Bo Nix is going to just turn around and hand the ball to whoever's behind.
They dominated last night. He finishes with 14-point fantasy points.
It's helpful in the league of assholes.
That's fine. Yes. Yeah, no. Well, this is all 2 quarterback league stuff.
He's had 5 games with 25-plus rushing yards. The one thing I will say for Bo Nix is bad as he's looked. He doesn't take sacks. Which is
and he didn't at Oregon. I think he took 6 sacks each of the last 2 years.
That is a genuine skill which people don't focus about enough. That's why people don't weight that enough. Like Joe Burrow earlier in his career took way too many sacks. Bo Nix is a lot worse than Joe Burrow, but still, that is a good thing. Like last night, he had an 83 QBR, which would rank number 1 in the entire NFL above Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. And the big reason for that is that he avoided sacks. He took no sacks. He had no interceptions, even though he should have had interceptions. So his ability to avoid negative plays has been a saving grace, but he's going to have more picks. But the thing is like he should be in throw strips
He'll also have more touchdown passes. Like he's not going to ever light it up, but he's not going to have a ton of games where they score over 30 and he doesn't have a touchdown.
They're going to have to start throwing at some point.
They're going to have to start throwing at some point. Last one here, Bo Nix or Russell Wilson?
Bo Nix. I would actually take Bo Nix.
Same. There. We have talked about this, that there's the concern that you could have half a game of Russell Wilson at some point, and that'll sink your fantasy week.
Also, what is Russell Wilson's ceiling? He doesn't run anymore, and he has one receiver who the team doesn't seem to like.
I was going to say, does he have one receiver?
Yeah, I'm in a. I'll completely cop to this, and so I'm in. All of us are in this thing called Scott Fish Bowl, which is a huge industry-wide charity tournament that a lot of people in the fantasy industry and that fans do as well. Like 4,000 people play in this big fantasy football league. It's drafts during the summer, and it's all to raise money for FantasyCares.org, which is a great organization. Shout out to my friend Scott Fish. Okay, it's a crazy deep league where there's no trades, right? So it's like 25-man rosters, and you can't make any trades, and there's no one on the waiver wire. And so it's super flex league. It's got weird scoring too. But after week 2, Bo Nix is my third quarterback. And I dropped Bo Nix because I saw those first two games. I was just like, I'm done. And I dropped Bo Nix to pick up Andy Dalton when Andy Dalton was named the starter because I was just like, you know what? I think Andy Dalton's going to be better over the rest of the season fantasy-wise than Bo Nix. And I was looking like a genius that first week when Andy Dalton.
That move was fine, though.
I think the move was fine, and I think ultimately it's probably borderline close. And my 2 quarterbacks in that league are Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels. So my third isn't playing unless it's a bye week or somebody gets hurt. So I'm good. I'm in second place in that league. No big deal. Just saying. And like 5 points out of first place.
Yeah, it's great to be second.
Yeah. Well, all these people, they all donated to charity play specifically in a league with me. So it's a bunch of Matthew Berry, fans that are like, they're all up in my business.
They hate you and want to beat you.
Either
you didn't
way,
think of that side.
Entirely possible, by the way. I mean, I'm currently in a league like that where everyone in the league hates me and wants to beat me. It's called the League of Assholes. But what I will say is that either way, whether you're in the League of Assholes or you're in my Scott Fish Bowl league, everyone there is aware of me, wants to beat me, and knows all of my rankings. And even if they agree or disagree with it, they know how I think. So it's
It's how I outbid you by $2 on every player on the waiver wire.
Exactly, like this jerk.
My analytics department has been on fire.
On fire.
Yes. What fab should we do? Well, we've run the numbers. Exactly $11 because Barry will bet and
10.
9.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you're a sneaky bastard.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Another news: Troy Franklin appears.
Made me overpay for JuJu Smith-Schuster, who showed up on the injury report this week. Who just yesterday he showed up on the injury report.
He doesn't get hurt usually.
I know it's weird.
He hasn't had a chronic knee
usually a modicum
of
health. Well, I felt like once you removed your knees, they can't get hurt anymore.
That's a good point.
I just felt like he's out there, on just pure cartilage and jelly.
Yes.
Like
Brandon Roy.
Right, exactly.
Wow. All right, anyway. Troy Franklin catches 5 of 6 targets for 50 yards in a game, Matthew, that Cortland Sutton was on a milk carton. I mean, he had 0 points.
Second straight game with at least double-digit fantasy points here. 69% route participation over the last 2 weeks. Season high 24% target share for Troy Franklin. Obviously, there's a connection going back to college between Franklin and Bo Nix. Having said all that, it doesn't feel like a great offense. I just don't feel like he's getting consistent enough work. I guess if you're sort of pointing your finger in the air and seeing which way the wind blows, and I'm desperate, give me a Broncos wide receiver. I suppose Troy Franklin can be on your radar, but he slid in the draft, Connor, and I felt like that was probably on purpose. I guess not on purpose. I feel like that wasn't a huge mistake that he slid that much, and it also feels like this offense is a mess.
Yeah, he was sub 180 pounds at the combine and didn't run in the 4.3s, and that was kind of the sell with Troy Franklin was that, hey, he's really skinny, really light, but he can fly like the wind. And I still think he's fast. I still like the player a lot. I like this connection specifically, but it wasn't – he went from a guy that, hey, could he be a day 2 guy? And the reasons he fell were justified. Right. I think the Broncos went into this year thinking like, hey, we're going to kind of get him ready for year 2, 3, and 4, and now they're looking around like, you know what kind of hit the fan. Troy Franklin's got to be out there. So I don't think this offense is going to run through him at any point.
The good news is he played the second most snaps last night of any wide receiver. The bad news is it was basically 50% of the snaps, and this offense just doesn't seem to have a ceiling. Now, the offensive line with the Broncos, I think, is a kind of quiet strength of the team. And they're
overachieving.
They're keeping Bo Nix clean in the pocket, and Nix is a part of that as well. But it just doesn't seem like there's much ceiling, given that the one guy who is out there every snap, Cortland Sutton, isn't doing anything either.
Yeah, and the Saints are a disaster. The Saints are an unmitigated disaster, and I just wonder, in a real game, again, Broncos play Carolina next week, so they'll probably look again. But, like, after Carolina, at Baltimore, at Kansas City, home to Atlanta. That stretch of 3 games, that's a real test.
They probably are the underdog in all 3.
I would
Atlanta
think so.
will be interesting, but Baltimore and Kansas City should not be.
Yeah, 100%. Both those games on the road as well.
Exactly.
Good luck there.
On the Saints side.
But my point is the Saints are an unmitigated disaster, and so I don't know how much we can take away from the Broncos' point of view because the Broncos constantly got the ball in good field position. They were on the field quite a bit. They dominated time possession because the Saints couldn't generate any sort of drive in this one as well. Connor, I can't believe Jake Haener wouldn't be better than Spencer Rattler looked awful last night.
This feels clearly like a situation that they want to see what they have in the rookie, while Haener has a much better floor. And I'm not just saying that because of the garbage time touchdown that absolutely burned my under 37 points. I'm not angry about it.
That was the worst.
It's just absurd.
The worst,
But
so stupid because Rattler's so awful that he gives up the pick 6/fumble kind of thing, which gets you within 1, and you're just like, what? All right, well, if you wouldn't have pulled him before then don't pull him. But now you pull him?
Right.
He should have been pulled at the second half.
He was limping around out there.
It's awful.
Yeah, it was
really
awful.
Bad.
Also, not a great sign for the Bucs defense that they gave up 27 points to Spencer Rattler after giving up 1 million points to the Falcons. That's
the Bucs defense from top to bottom has legitimate issues. They have no pass rush. The secondary's injured.
And Baker had I think 3 turnovers in that game too. So I know.
Yeah, he had 3 interceptions. Also, that just speaks to the ills of the Saints defense at the moment, which came in and looked like a really good unit through 2 weeks and was a really good unit last year. They got 33 points to Bo Nix. They gave up 51 points to Baker Mayfield in a game where he threw 3 interceptions in 1 quarter. It's an absolute catastrophe at the moment. Patrick Mahomes, with no receivers whatsoever, easily could have had 400 passing yards and 2 touchdowns and no picks in that game if he'd gotten a bit lucky on pass interference calls against with Xavier Worthy in the mix. So that's just the Saints are. They're a catastrophe at the moment, which is it's a long fall from grace. This team looked fantastic.
After 2 weeks, we were talking about could the Saints be playing a home game in the Super Bowl? And now we're like, does Dennis Allen keep his job 3 more weeks?
Week 8, yeah, right. Clint Kubiak was going to be the hottest name on the head coaching market, and to be fair, Clint Kubiak, the bottom is really falling out.
They've lost a lot of players to injury.
They're all their players. Yeah. I mean, it's insane. But it makes you wonder how bad the Cowboys might be. That's what I keep thinking of. I'm sorry.
That loss
That's all I can think of.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Well, the good news is the next game the Cowboys play the Niners in San Francisco on Sunday Night Football. They always do well in that situation.
Oh, yeah. What could go wrong?
So Cedric Wilson ends up the winner here. He does catch 6 of 7 targets for 57 yards and that awful touchdown. There's not really much to take away. Nice job, Jay. No. Foster Moreau.
Yes.
Gets your over 10.5 receiving yards bet right out of the way. You were the luckiest man in America. You got to watch your bet cash within the first 5 minutes, and then you can go on and enjoy the rest of your life. And put the kids to bed. And
flip over some baseball, watch some Rangers hockey, and beat up on the Red Wings again.
Yeah. Bub Means got some looks. He got the 5 targets, but did not catch the over 3.5 receptions that I thought he would. He had a bad drop as well.
You got burned badly as well.
I did. Unbelievable. I also, by the way, I didn't think Spencer Rattler would be that bad.
No.
He was awful.
Well, it was a 3-point line or whatever. It wasn't supposed to. It wasn't supposed to happen like this.
Yeah, and yet it did.
Yeah.
That's why they play the games.
To put a bow on this game, there was a celebrity at this game, by the way.
Oh yeah,
a celebrity we know quite well. Let's take a look who showed up there.
Yeah, on Drew Brees night.
Dome. Oh, Lawrence Jackson Jr. VIP, Lawrence. He's practically at the pylon.
Who let this happen?
Look at Lawrence.
Look at him licking his lips.
Yeah, he's just living his best life.
Oh my God.
And there is Lawrence with the very popular Silk the Shocker of No Limit.
Yeah.
So Lawrence is hanging out with the big people.
He is
one of them.
No, I guess Lawrence is now part of the entourage. Lawrence is Lawrence is an entourage.
You think he comes
Lawrence
back to
is
this
like
death?
E. Lawrence, he's like E or
yeah. Where is
or
he amongst
Turtle.
the four? He's
Yeah,
definitely not the turtle. He can't be the turtle.
He's not Turtle.
You know
he's not E.
He's Johnny Drama?
He's Johnny Drama.
There we go,
You know what that
yes.
is? Larry
Yes.
Drama.
Yes.
Lawrence's new nickname is Larry Drama.
I like that. It fits very well with his persona.
Yeah. Well, the last time Lawrence was on the road to go to a football game, he was in Pittsburgh, the casino with me and George Savarikas drinking White Claws. And so now he's upgraded to Drew
that's a
Brees
big
and Co.
upgrade.
So well done for Lawrence. The only way is up.
Well done. So God bless. Anyway, Larry Danger. Done.
There we go.
Done and done.
So that puts a bow
He'll
on.
prefer better than Mouse Jackson, which was the last one.
Jackson.
Yeah.
That puts a bow on a thrilling Thursday night football game. Let's take a look at the Week 7 injuries we're tracking heading into the weekend. Jerome Ford dealing with a hamstring. Jordan Mason has been wearing a non-contact jersey this week with that shoulder. We're going to see where his status ends up. Travis Etienne also dealing with a hamstring. Ramondre Stevenson dealing with a foot injury. Jonathan Taylor has that significant ankle sprain. Joe Mixon still dealing with the ankle. Mike Evans has missed some time this week of practice with the hamstring. Marvin Harrison Jr. trying to work his way out of concussion protocol. He has had some limited practice time. Maybe with the extra day, Harrison has a chance to not miss a game. Deontay Johnson with an ankle. He's been battling stuff throughout the year. Tyler Lockett with the knee injury. So, like I said, Mike Evans, he didn't practice on Thursday with that hamstring. Malik Neighbors has cleared concussion protocol. He had a full practice on Thursday. Despite some noise of him potentially have a groin injury, doesn't sound serious. Jay, this one definitely noteworthy on your end. Cooper Kupp remains limited on Thursday with his ankle. It feels like they're being very delicate with both their star wide receivers right now.
Yes, new addition to the Grape Slappers, Cooper Kupp. Excited to roll him out of the garage after a few weeks of rest for my big Cooper Kupp. And look, all the expectation has been that he's going to play. Sean McVay usually pretty reliable on this type of stuff, and he's said that the expectation more or less is that Kupp is on track to play. I think also it's always an indication with these things, like it's rare that a guy will miss 4 weeks without going on IR. Like they probably would have put him on IR if he was going to be out this long. So expect that he'll be good to go, gets a favorable matchup as well.
Yeah, Mike Evans, again, still a little bit of a concern, but again, that's the Monday night game. So I think today will be very telling on Mike Evans. We'll figure that, and not on the full screen, but I just sort of mentioned it again that JuJu Smith-Schuster was added to the injury report on Thursday, so we'll see sort of how that plays out.
Nick Chubb has been on the PUP list with that knee. He's expected to play in Week 7, make his season debut against the Bengals. We got to hear from Browns offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey on his expectations for Nick Chubb's return. Take a listen.
As we go through the week, we're still early in terms of that evaluation of where he's at in terms of workload and those types of things. So I think that's still a work in progress. We want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for us and for Nick to make sure that he's available for the long term. So we're going to constantly evaluate that throughout the week, and we're not going to rush any decisions on how much, what plays, what's, anything in terms of Nick. We're not going to rush any decisions on that.
Ken Dorsey going from Josh Allen to Deshaun Watson in the span of a year. It's got to feel like going on rookie mode all the way to Heisman.
It's like going from Drew Brees to Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little
But that was
bit.
his own doing.
True. That's true.
So I don't have any sympathy for Sean Payton on that one.
That's
It's
fair.
just nice for people at home that you just spot where's the NCAA college football 25 reference that Connor's going to drop.
Heisman difficulty.
Yeah, there you go.
If you caught it,
I did.
That's a big step for you.
Thanks.
You have to hear me and Lawrence talk about it.
Oh my God,
Every,
it's all they talk
every
about.
day, every week.
Every day, every
when
week.
Damien's around, he gets in on the action.
Damien gets in, producer Damien too.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what do we do?
Nick Chubb. Look,
I
I think the expectation should be fairly low or measured at first for Nick Chubb, and then he will gradually build up. All the expectation are that he will be worked up slowly, given the severity of the injury, given where that team is at the moment, given the state of their offensive line and their quarterback and their offense in general. But I do think that in a few weeks' time, there is a chance that Nick Chubb resembles much closer to the guy that he was in the past, and he should be relatively unopposed in this backfield. If Nick Chubb is back up and running, I can't imagine that Deonta Foreman and Jerome Ford are going to be stealing too much from him. So I think that, look, there's it's a terrible situation in Cleveland with that offense. I think Nick Chubb is the only good thing about this team at the moment. His story.
And it's not a matchup that scares you, by the way. Last 4 weeks, Cincinnati 24th against the run. I mean, we just saw Tyrone Tracy run all over him as well. So, it's not a terrible matchup. I mean, the question is just what does he look like and what's the usage, right?
Also,
how lucky do you feel?
Yeah, and also, one, I think they're going to go out of their way to give him a carry if they get close to the end zone. Problem is they may not get close to the end zone with the way that this offense is tracking at the moment. But look, I would just write off Nick Chubb at your own peril because he dealt with the same injury in college and
I'll
he came
never
back.
write off Nick Chubb ever again.
Yes. Yeah. It's a phenomenal story, and it's the only good story about the Browns.
Yeah, potential comeback player of the year, Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
Boy, wouldn't that be great if Browns won it 2 years in a row?
Well, this
Jay?
time it actually would be great, Matthew. I just think with this award,
do you have any shares of Nick Chubb comeback player of the year?
Do have a little Nick Chubb.
Okay.
I think the thing with this award, and beyond just because I want my own bet to win, there should be greater.
I have a little Nick Chubb.
I was just going to say, hey, do me a favor, producer Steven, if you can. Just do me a favor. Just mark the time card. Mark the time code right there. I would like that clip as a gift.
Yes.
Just Jay saying, I have a little Nick Chubb.
That's
all I want. I want just that one
if he
clip.
wins the award.
I just want, I want it to be known that Jay has a little Nick Chubb. I just want everyone in America to know that.
Yeah. Well, if he
I
starts
just think
getting
that's
20
important
carries
to know.
again, I'll have a big
It's
Nick Chubb.
self-admitted. It's self-admitted. And by the way, we're a no judgment table.
Yeah,
The
that's
fact
fine.
that you have a little Nick Chubb is great.
Yeah.
That's why we have the desk mostly in front of us.
Yeah.
Listen, it's going to get bigger the more that he runs into the end zone,
That's
Matthew.
fine.
Yes.
That's fine.
The shares of the profit will go up.
You're right.
Yeah.
Your bet's a grower, not a shower. I get it. Of
Exactly
course.
right. I'm just worried about the size of it as Deshaun Watson continues to manage the offense. Look, with comeback player of the year,
Yeah.
and this is just my own personal view, whatever, it doesn't inform betting on it or not, there should be more emphasis placed on the adversity overcome. Like, is Kirk Cousins really going to win comeback player of the year over Nick Chubb or J.K. Dobbins? Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles. He was always going to come back. He's a statue in the pocket. Nick Chubb's leg snapped in half for the second time, and now he is playing the most arduous, difficult physical position in American sports. J.K. Dobbins, his career seemed done.
But this has burned
DeMar
you. This
Hamlin
exact
was-
thing has burned you before. That's the problem.
I mean, you understand that DeMar Hamlin was literally
yeah.
dead. I'm pretty sure DeMar Hamlin had actually been declared dead
I'm
and
not
then
saying,
came back to life.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah,
not
he
saying
played.
this isn't informing my decision to bet or bet
Okay.
not on people. I'm just saying that in terms of what people should do, there should be more weight. Nick Chubb's comeback story is just better than Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins. I'm
agree.
sorry. So is J.K. Dobbins. They should be the two
Brian
favorites.
Robinson was shot 5 different times and played football 6 weeks later.
Ricky Pearsall is a better comeback
Thank you.
player of the year candidate than
agree.
Kirk Cousins and
I
Aaron
agree.
Rodgers.
If Ricky Pearsall steps on the field this year
He's gonna
and catches
do it.
a pass, right?
Do it.
And he's practicing.
He's ready to roll.
He's not allowed to win because he's a rookie, but
I
they're
know,
the same
and
thing
that's
with
what that
like
was the
Chubb
issue
and-
with the
You're
that was the
applying
issue with
logic
Brian
to an award
Robinson
without logic.
But
Insane.
it's
voters, if you're watching, just focus on the actual comeback as opposed. Kirk Cousins won the NFC South while being a statue at 10-7. Great comeback story. How about Nick Chubb coming back from? No one thought he was going to play again after that injury happened. Everyone saw that. Everyone saw his leg snap in half
We're not even
for the
halfway through the
second
season.
time. It's the second time it's happened to the same leg. If he comes back, if he is back to being himself, he should win the award. I'm sorry,
I
he
agree,
just should.
especially in that offense.
the most obvious win ever
me
was
very
when
upset.
Alex Smith came back from his gruesome leg injury to win that as well. Anyway, we're currently all in a group text about our fantasy basketball league. We're going to be doing a fantasy basketball league of assholes, and I just want to say it right now here because everyone's listening that Jay's little Nick Chubb. That's what I'm calling for my team name. Everyone else, hands off, because that's my team name. Yeah.
And
Jay's
with
little
that,
Nick Chubb.
it's a good time to welcome
Everyone
on.
else back off. That's mine.
It's a good time to welcome on Denny Carter.
Yeah.
Listen, the bank examiner is going to say you have only yourself to blame if you have something writing on this Broncos-Saints game on Thursday night, where there are approximately 0.2 good players playing.
This is a smash spot for the bank examiner. Really, I mean that's what we have here. Is he's coming for me as someone who was all in on Javonte Williams. I mean tonight could be rough. You know, they could build a third Spirit Halloween in my yard.
Someone on Twitter do the LeBron Hezzy compilation, but just bank examiner when these two teams play on Thursday night. You know that little hand fake he does and then he shoots it.
What the mainstream media doesn't want you to know, we welcome on our friend Denny Carter. Denny, how are we doing? Happy Friday to you.
I'm doing better than I thought. Thank you for asking, because Javonte Williams was not a disaster for once, and I got to keep my house, which is nice. You know, we have that going for us going into the weekend.
Yeah.
That's a big win, Denny. And another nice win for us is Pop Douglas flying under the radar right now. Nobody's talking about the Patriots offense, despite Drake May making his season debut, and that potentially helping out DeMario Douglas.
Look, guys, I want you to know that my interns, I have 16 interns, live in my house somehow. They watched a combined 230 hours of cable news this week and didn't document a single mention of DeMario Pop Douglas. I think, honestly, it's shameful. I don't really know what the mainstream media is doing here. But look, he has a great matchup. He's coming off of 2 9-target games. Drake May has given a boost to everybody in this offense, especially the pass catchers. And he's facing a Jaguars team this week in London, allowing the 2nd most fantasy points to wide receivers. They're giving up a 78% catch rate to slot receivers. And of course, as you know, maybe the mainstream press doesn't know, DeMario Douglas runs almost exclusively from the slot. He's a great start this week. I actually think that we need to be talking about him more.
Yeah, we should be.
Slot merchant, DeMario Douglas.
Slot merchant. It's a great, to your point, like, you know, Jaguars also allow the 3rd highest catch rate to the slot, Denny. And DeMario Douglas, whenever he's gotten an opportunity, feels like he's always sort of performed. Not that the mainstream media would ever tell you about that. You know, they're keeping it from you on purpose. They distract you with other headlines like, you know, like, oh, Drake May is going to start. Oh, Ramondre Stevenson may or may not come back from injury. Blah blah blah. But no one wants to talk about DeMario Douglas.
Right. All I hear about is Hunter Henry. Every time I turn on MSNBC, it's crazy.
100%. 100%. Denny, now I know that you have many, many online internet aliases. You go into the dark web. You're down in, you're doing all the research, bringing it to the forefront. You are shining a light on the topics the mainstream media does not want us to know, because they want us to believe there's no such thing as a streamable tight end. They want us to think that that this is a position that should be, you know, canceled. You know, they're all about cancel culture. But I know you, Denny, believe that there are some streamable tight ends out there. You've uncovered them.
I'm going to talk about 2 here, and nobody can stop me. Okay, Don't cut my mic. Everybody in the studio there, do not cut my mic.
I won't even fact check you.
There'll be no fact checking.
Cade Otton, he's facing a Baltimore team this week in a potential shootout. Okay, between the Bucs and the Ravens. The Ravens are giving up 8 targets per game to tight ends, which is really solid, really good for Cade Otton. Otton has at least 6 targets in 3 of his past 4 games. I think that this is a really good spot for Otton, who's out there running a lot of routes. Look, the New York Times editorial page talks a lot about Mike Evans, talks a lot about Chris Godwin. I'm not hearing anything about Cade Otton. Again, it's messed up.
Yes, I just picked up Cade Otton in the League of Our Souls, so hoping that Mike Evans' little niggle maybe keeps him out Monday night, and then he's back at it. 4
of the 6 tight ends to face the Ravens so far this year have scored at least 9.5 fantasy points. Cade Otton also made the others receiving votes in the love list here, but you're right. When I went to look up research for it, couldn't find anything in the New York Times, honestly, or the Washington Post, or the Wall Street Journal.
Where are they?
They're all ignoring it. They're all. It feels like a conspiracy, honestly, to ignore Cade Otton.
Indeed. Denny, when I turn on my television, I see a lot of coverage about the election, the future of the nation. I don't see much about Grant Calcaterra. Can you fix that, Denny, and tell me something about the Eagles tight end?
I mean, really, we need a priority check, you know, as a nation, if we're not talking about Grant Calcaterra, who I have heard of before this past week, okay? So stop saying I haven't heard of him. He caught 4 of 4 targets last week for 67 yards after Dallas Goedert went down with an early injury. It doesn't look like Dallas Goedert is going to play this week against the Giants. And I kind of like this Giants-Eagles game as a sneaky shootout type of affair. Calcaterra is running a lot from the slot. And by the way, guys, this is something you won't hear anywhere except for here, except for Mom and Pop Shop, NBC Sports. You know, he had more receptions last week than Devontae Smith. Where's the media on that? You know, I'm just asking questions. Who is the wide receiver 2 really in this offense? Is it Calcaterra? Is it Smith? No one knows.
A lot of controversy there, but right, to your point, you're just asking questions. You're just raising your hand. You're just trying to learn. You're on a fact-finding mission, right? And that's what we should all be, just on fact-finding missions, asking questions, not just assuming this. Denny, I'm curious very quickly. I would just want to mention, here's a number of running backs that are available in over 60% of Yahoo leagues, just if you're looking for somebody potentially this weekend, if you're desperate. Antonio Gibson, Ty Chandler, Trey Sermon off the injury report yesterday for the Colts as Jonathan Taylor still nurses that injury, Isaac Guerrero, Sean Tucker, Kimani Vidal. Any of those jump out at you, Denny, that we should shine a light on?
Yeah, well, I was going to say Ty Chandler, but the mainstream media misled us on Aaron Jones's injury, and it looks like he will play, unfortunately, according to rotoworld.com. So I don't know if you could play Ty Chandler in that situation. I guess Antonio Gibson, because it doesn't look like Ramondre Stevenson is going to start. He's involved in the passing offense, and I should say Stevenson is not going to play, it looks like. And Gibson is involved enough in the passing offense, and I think this will be a pass-heavy script against Jacksonville.
I'll also mention Trey Sermon, who was banged up but returned to practice yesterday. Jonathan Taylor still looks like he may not be able to go, so Trey Sermon against a bottom 10 run defense in Miami could be a sneaky start once again. I know he wasn't much yesterday, but last week I should say, but a better matchup for Sermon and the Colts this weekend. Listen, Denny, continue to hide out in your bunker. Continue to send out missives. We all love the posts you make on Facebook and the memes that you send, letting us all know about the Grant Calcaterras of the world. Keep up the good work, my friend. Keep up the fight for fantasy freedom.
That's right. I will. And you can bet on that, Matthew.
I will. There you go.
You can catch more of Denny live every Friday at noon for his weekly Q&A on the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. We're going to take our first break. When we're back, we preview some of the biggest games coming up this weekend with what's on tap as we take a look at the highest point totals going into the weekend.
Remember when we were in Kansas City week 1 and Matthew Berry said, hey, how do I get in on that Picks podcast? I said, take my place. Be my guest.
Okay. All right. We'll make sure we say that at the next break. Matthew Berry and fantasy football with Chris Sims unbuttoned. That's the new one.
All right.
You're tired. You're retired. See ya.
That's right.
Yeah.
The new PFT host, drink for free today.
I'm damn right.
Congratulations. You finally got a side gig.
Absolutely. I have no fear of going up against Chris Sims or Mike Florio, but if Florio wants to retreat to the.
He doesn't want to compete.
No, that's fine. I would love to be part of their pick spot. I'll go head to head with him. I'll head with both of them. Either one of them. I don't care. I'll do it here. I'll do it in Florio's bunker in West Virginia. Ooh, you name the place. I'm there. Let's go.
Okay.
Good compete level today.
Yeah, 1,000%. I'm ready.
You're ready.
I'm ready, baby.
All right, What's on Tap is brought to you by Bud Light.
Faith in God, faith in me.
The official beer sponsor of the NFL. Here's the matchups with the highest point totals going into the weekend. Sundays are easy to enjoy when they are full of football and the fridge is filled with beer. Here's the games we're locking in on as we start with, Panthers at Commanders. Commanders favored by 8 points. The point total in this is 51.5. Brian Robinson, Matthew, has had 2 limited practices this week. If he's back, is Austin Ekeler still a start?
I think he's a viable flex there. You know, he's had double-digit fantasy points in every game he's played so far this year. He's averaging over 70 yards from scrimmage per game. Carolina, by the way, has allowed multiple touchdowns. Let me rephrase. They've allowed touchdowns to multiple running backs in 4 of their 6 games, meaning more than one running back has scored in a game against the Panthers, so if you're like, well, but Brian Robinson's going to get in, well, Austin Ekeler could also get in. By the way, cut to Jeremy McNichols having like 3. But no team in the NFL has allowed more fantasy points to opposing running backs than your Carolina Panthers. Keep pounding. That's what Cliff Kingsbury is going to say to his running backs. Keep pounding into the offense, into their line, into their end zone. We're going to be pounding our way into pay dirt against Carolina.
Got to win this one, Matthew.
This is a big win.
Minus 410 money line, 8-point favorites.
Yeah.
Can't blow this game.
No, we can't.
Yeah, got to get to 5-2.
This is one that I'm a little nervous about.
The banana skin.
Yeah, because they're
Don't
like,
be the
all
old
right, we
Commanders.
lost to Baltimore, but whatever, we got this. No. You don't want them to, suddenly take the foot off the gas. I don't think Dan Quinn will let them.
No, I agree. I think they win comfortably.
All right, we move over to Seahawks at Atlanta. The Falcons are favored by 3 points in this game. The over-under, another big one, 51 points here as we show all the fantasy-relevant players on the board. And it's been an interesting quote-worthy week for Kirk Cousins, who's been lighting it up. Listen to Kirk Cousins on, and I quote, taking over traps.
I love it. I used to say when I was in college, I said there's no better feeling as a college player playing for Michigan State than to be in the big house in Michigan and hearing the chant, "Go green, go white." My teammate used to say, "Walk into your trap, take over your trap," was the line he would say. And so that's kind of what it is.
Coming off a quiet week for Kirk Cousins, Matthew, but before that, he obviously went nuclear. Do you go back to him? Where does he stack up right now for your rankings?
I have a QB7, right? I mean, Falcons have the second highest implied team total for this week. Each of the last 3 quarterbacks to face the Seattle Seahawks have scored at least 22 fantasy points. That includes luminaries like Brock Purdy, but also Jared Goff and Daniel Jones. So it's a nice matchup here for the known voice texter, Kirk Cousins. Not sure what was going on with the beanie look in the press conference right there, but friend of the podcast, Detective Drake London, says him and Kirk are locked in. They're in lockstep, and that should continue this week against Seattle, as over the last 3 games, the Seahawks allow a league-high 10 yards per pass attempt. So Kirk should have a clean pocket and should be able to move the ball effectively against Seattle.
Yeah, I think if people haven't been paying super close attention, they might not have realized that Drake London is just a legit top 5 wide receiver now. He's getting massive target rates in terms of like first read target share. He's among the league leaders. Obviously, he has the pedigree, top 10 pick as the first wide receiver taken in that loaded draft of receivers. He's being used in that kind of Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua type of role in the Zach Robinson offense. So, yeah, he is obviously a monster. He's set at 73.5 receiving yards. I'm going to guess that's the highest total he's ever been set at in his career. The running back situation for Atlanta is still fascinating.
So I wanted to ask you about, do you think this is sustainable with Algier being so viable, even with a true RB1 and Bijan there?
I think this is the status quo. Like, I think the idea that Bijan was going to take over the backfield, and there was reason to believe that in the preseason, given it felt logical, and he had 18 carries to Algier's 3 in week 1. But I think that Algier is just too good, and he's too beloved by this coaching staff as he was the previous one. And I think the idea is that full of energy Tyler Algier, who is fresh, is more useful to the offense than a workhorse Bijan Robinson, who is getting worn down with carries over and over again. And I think this is just going to be how it is going forward, where it's going to be, look, I think Bijan is going to outcarry Algier certainly, and it's not going to be like last week where it was basically an even split. But I think the idea that Bijan Robinson is going to be 85% of the snaps, that's just not reality.
Algier is going to continue to get enough work to be flex viable in most weeks.
Yep, he said it like he's projected for like 40 rushing yards.
He just is. And again, we sort of redo this calculation, but I think that if you started a draft today, Breece Hall goes over Bijan Robinson. That was sort of a question a week ago, 2 weeks ago, but this new look offense, you feel a little bit better about Breece Hall than you do Bijan, and you're still taking Derrick Henry and I would argue Kyren Williams over those guys, in addition to a few others as well.
I think there's a lot of guys. Like, is J.K. Dobbins like a hugely worse option than Bijan Robinson? J.K. Dobbins got 25 carries last week, and there's no one else in that backfield.
Yeah, I mean it's right there. It's a conversation, right? I mean, you're still, even after last week, you're still taking Saquon obviously over. I'm
definitely taking Kyren Williams.
Yeah, I think you make an argument Joe Mixon over him, back healthy in terms of workload.
Banged up, he's been great when he plays.
So,
Lions Vikings, our last game.
In this game, I'd rather Ken Walker than Bijan for sure.
The Vikings favored by 1.5. They're home against the Lions. The point total in this one is 50.5. And much like the Falcons, the Lions have a dynamic running back duo in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And we got to hear from their running backs coach and assistant coach of the Lions, Scotty Montgomery, on the duo's nicknames. Take a listen.
Inside of our room, just really excited, our guys, Sonic and Knuckles. It's official now, right? I've been warned that that's what they want to be called. And of course I know about it because I have children, right? So Sonic and Knuckles, I think it works well. They love it. So I'm gonna run with it.
You're not offended that PB&J didn't stick?
Well, I knew that PB&J was not gonna be a nickname. It was more of a collection of how great they could be together. The PB&J, I told you guys from the get-go, nobody wanted to be known as Jelly. That was probably the biggest deal. No one wanted to be known as Jelly.
Jay, this duo has a great nickname in Sonic and Knuckles, and they've been awesome all season. But they run into a Minnesota defense that is number 2 against the run right now.
Before we go there for a second, we're just curious, because here's some of the other nicknames they could have chosen from. Sonic is the star. Okay, we get that. But he's got friends. Knuckles is one of his friends, but so is Cream, Chip. Blaze, Tails, and Princess Elise. Anyone? I mean, like, why couldn't it have been Sonic and Princess Elise as a nickname?
It has to be Knuckles.
But what about Sonic and Cream?
I don't know if David Montgomery preferred that to Knuckles.
Yeah, Knuckles or Creams. These are all. What about Dr. Eggman?
Doesn't feel like it.
Yeah,
off the tongue.
I feel like that should be a nickname for me, Dr. Eggman, based on my unfortunate shaped head.
Yeah, you can play.
Yeah,
it's certainly more fitting for you than perhaps David Montgomery.
I don't know. I'm merely. Producers in my ears ask about this. Look, all I know is I Googled Sonic character names, and this is what came up. And if you can't trust Wikipedia, who on the internet can you trust?
Knuckles is more relevant.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with these characters. Hey,
you
do you
will
know,
be soon.
You know, kids.
You will be soon. You have kids.
Yeah, that's true.
Blaze is a cat, by the way.
Yes, Bubble Guppy's on the way out.
Yeah.
Sonic coming in.
Bubble Guppies isn't terrible, by the way. As kids shows go,
it's not great.
Have you? They're all made for 3-year-olds. You understand that? But like when
better
you
than Coco Melon.
Yes, exactly.
Worse than Blippi for mine. That's where I'd have it in the power rankings.
I totally disagree.
I
Give me Bubble Guppies over Blippi all day, every day.
Okay. Yeah.
I've watched a lot of children's programming in my time with my daughters. You know what I mean? So I have strong opinions about all this.
Yeah.
Everything's better than Caillou.
Yes. I'm a big Encanto guy at the moment. I know it's not a TV show, but we watch it so much over and over again it effectively is a TV show.
Encanto is terrific, although the mom is the bad guy. By the way, the mom is the most evil character in Encanto.
Yeah.
And she's not supposed to be. But she is.
Grandma?
Huh? The grandma, whoever, the one that with the
the mom is
spell.
kind of a nothing character.
Yeah, the grandma. The grandma.
Yep.
The grandma.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, no. Coco and Encanto.
What they do to Bruno is outrageous.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
What they do at Bruno, they should all be locked up.
Yes.
I'll just say that.
Another language.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. You know who has the higher rushing total between David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs on DraftKings? Neither of them. They have the exact same one at 50.5. So that's where this backfield is at the moment. Montgomery more likely to get in the end zone. Jahmyr Gibbs more likely to give you receiving value. So it's a nice little 1-2 Sonic and Knuckles tandem they've got there.
Both guys usually inside my top 10, but they're both outside. They're just barely inside my top 20. You're starting Gibbs and Montgomery if you have them, obviously, and I prefer Montgomery to Gibbs just because he's got more touchdown equity. He's scored in every single game this year. But it's worth noting, Vikings allow the second fewest fantasy points per game to opposing running backs, the fourth fewest rush yards per game to running backs. They've given up only one rushing touchdown this entire year, and they allow the lowest catch rate to opposing running backs as well. So this is the toughest test, I think, that the Lions running backs will face this year. They've had 2 weeks to prepare, Minnesota has, for this rushing attack. So, again, you're starting Montgomery and Gibbs if you have them, but there's a reason why they're inside my top 20, barely, versus inside my top 10. I would lower expectations.
Okay.
That'll do it for What's on Tap, presented by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. And this Sunday night, it's a showdown of two teams vying for position in a crowded group of AFC contenders. Catch Aaron Rodgers and the new-look Jets take on T.J. Watt and the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Coverage starts at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. We're taking one more break. When we're back, it's time for Last Call. Jay and I got our pickup lines for Matthew, our best bets going into the weekend.
Guppies. Guppies.
That's copyrighted.
DraftKings Sportsbook is the #1 place to bet touchdowns, and new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code Barry when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is.
It is yours.
Jesus Christ.
Reluctantly.
It is no one else's.
It's time
only
for last
yours.
Call. All right. Here's our pickup lines. We quote effectiveness after 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Look at you, Connor Rogers, 3-1 on the season.
Oh yeah, I bring the heat for pickup lines.
You really do. I've gone home with each of you twice.
Yeah.
I will never tell. You both. You know, yeah.
No Nick Chubb references.
Yeah, I was trying to get
hit
there.
the quota.
I was trying to
We hit
figure out
the
a way to
quota.
get there, but I couldn't figure it out. But
When you said that, we looked at each other and just couldn't believe it.
Anyway, I enjoyed my time with each of you. They're separate experiences, different attempts and ways to go about it.
We'll
but
keep it
both,
going.
Both were solid times.
What do you got,
both
Jay?
Enjoyed,
Best of luck.
Yeah. All right. So from that to Deshaun Watson. My best bet is the Cincinnati Bengals -5.5.
Okay.
Away to the Cleveland Browns. Stealing these stats from your former colleague Bill Barnwell, here's where Deshaun Watson ranks out of 566 passes through 6 weeks since 2007. First down rate, last.
Right.
Yards per dropback, second last. QBR, 558th out of 566. He is basically, since the turn of the millennium, his start to the season, the only player who's really been demonstrably worse was like Jamarcus Russell in his rookie season. I think it is very difficult for people and for the betting market to quantify exactly how destructive on the football field Deshaun Watson is at the moment to that offense. Against the Eagles, like watching that game, he almost gave up on passing because he just realized he couldn't do it anymore. And he was just looking to run every single time that he could. And meanwhile, on the other side, Joe Burrow playing at an MVP level, that offense took a step back against the Giants, but the Giants' defense is a bit underrated. So the offense is firing, and then the defense was much improved too. So I just don't think 5.5 is enough points for Joe Burrow against Deshaun Watson.
I love that pick. It's my favorite line of the week as well. I got a player prop for you here, Matthew.
All right.
And it's tough because it's against your team.
Okay.
Andy Dalton, 1.5 plus touchdowns against the Commanders is plus 115. It's getting bored of the layups, the minus bets. We're going to look for a little plus money this week. Andy Dalton to throw at least 2 touchdowns is plus 115.
Yeah, and our secondary has struggled, obviously, although they've played better recently.
They have been better.
But they've been better recently, but still. And Jonathan Allen's out, so maybe, more of a clean pocket.
He's done this in 3 of his 4 games.
Yes, he has.
Now, the Commanders, I know this is a little tricky. They are bottom 10D versus quarterbacks in fantasy, but they have been better lately. I actually think he's going to do this because I think the Commanders are just blowing them out. I think the Commanders are going to score a ton of points very easily early in this game. Carolina's going to be in a complete throw script. I don't think the Commanders, they're not going to play a prevent defense, but they're also going to, be a little careful here. I think Dalton gets the 2 touchdowns, whether they're getting blown out or it's a close game. That's why I like it.
I like both bets quite a bit, especially. I like both bets quite a bit. I especially like the fact that it's at plus money. But when I have a chance to either bet for Andy Dalton or against Deshaun Watson, I think I'm going to go. I'm basically. His way is I'm betting on Joe Burrow and against Deshaun Watson, or your way I'm betting on Andy Dalton.
That's
so,
fair.
Jay, I'm coming home with you.
Who day?
Yeah. Tell Nick Chubb we're coming over.
Happy Tracksuit Friday to everybody, by the way.
Everyone
real quick, here's editor EJ showing off a
Let's go, EJ.
lovely chocolate-colored tracksuit. Way to bring the heat, EJ. Happy Tracksuit Friday and happy weekend, everyone.
FF pregame, Sunday morning, 11 a.m. on NBC on NFL Peacock. Side of something. Don't find us. For Jay and Connor and Denny, I'm Matthew. Peace out. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com. And I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched. Or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.